Hello, everybody. Look at that. Pat, nice work. It's the first time in a few weeks that we got that intro.
Glitch-free introduction.
Glitch-free. Look at us. Hello, everybody.
If anyone wants to hire me for video services, in 2 months, I will not cost your company money.
Wait, why? Why in 2 months?
Because in 2 months, I'll learn how to do it right.
Oh. I don't know. How long have we been doing this show?
You're right, a year.
No, but I like it. It's, you know what it does? It keeps me on my toes. I can't just sit back and relax and be like, oh, it's like I got to be like ready to go.
You never know when I'm going to disappear, and you're going to have to ad-lib the whole show.
The whole show, and you have to go take a pee break, and I'm left here on my own. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Punch Up Pod with Lila and Pat. How are you all? Hey there, pitchforks are coming. Where? How y'all doing? I made a little bit of a mistake. Hey, Daniel. And I'm drinking my already pre-mixed drink, which has a lot of alcohol in it. So I pre-gamed hard, and I got a lot to say today. How was your week, Pat?
You should just start off with a rant. I think that would be the best start to the show.
Well, you know, as y'all know, I'm an actress, and we get these residual checks in the mail, and you know, mine are never that much, but sometimes it's like a nice little bump, like, oh, a sushi dinner, yay, you know. And it came in today, and I'm opening it up because, you know, as I've mentioned many times, we sort of live at around $150,000 of credit card debt. So I'm always just hoping for any little thing. And it was for 12 cents.
12 cents.
My residual check today was 12 cents.
You can't even get a Starbucks cup of coffee or a month of Twitter.
Elon's Freebird.
What is it? Freebird. I don't know.
Freebird. Freebird. Yeah, no, I can't get anything. I mean, maybe a gumball, but I think gumballs are now 25 cents. Like, I don't think I can get anything. And, you know, as somebody who has produced movies before, I know that those checks cost $15 each for the companies to issue.
Yeah. So at least you're costing them money. There's some pleasure in that.
Yeah, like, I do. I'm taking actually quite a bit of pleasure in that. I cost them some money. How was your week?
Nice. My week's good. My boss is gone. He's
again, I love it.
Yeah, he's gone for a whole week starting yesterday. He is in Florida. He's probably coming back with COVID. I'm just going to put it out there.
Oh,
he's at a Tony Robbins he's a Tony Robbins guy.
Oy.
He's there in a convention with, like, I don't know, 20,000 people in a closed room for a week in Florida.
Who are desperate to make millions of dollars, to be their best selves.
Yeah. But the nice thing is he's gone, and I'm all on my own, and I get to do whatever I want. So
that is nice.
Can't argue with that.
I like it. You know, I was thinking yesterday we were making dinner, and I looked at my air purifier. Those of you who follow our show have probably been hearing me talk about my fancy air purifier, which I am so excited about. But it was at like 390 yesterday just from cooking, which doesn't make sense to me. But anyway,
390 meaning the air is
like it's supposed to be, I think, 40 and below or 400 and below. It might be 400 and below. I don't even know. But normally, because we never have anybody in the house and we're all masked and everything. I mean, we're not masked in our own house, but like whatever. It's at about 9 or 10, which I really like it at 9 or 10. Wow. And I've seen, you know, when epidemiologists and scientists who post on Twitter have posted like air quality stuff, like when they're sitting on a plane, they'll like 400 is good. And then it can get up to in the 2000s. So I think 400 was probably fine, but I thought maybe it was a reflection of Josh's cooking. Just kidding.
Did you lock him in the other half of the house, like punishment?
Exactly. So what do you think? Should we just get started so we can try to see if we get to all of our sections this time?
I think we should. We keep stopping one short lately.
Yeah.
So let's try to get to all of them.
I think we should. What do we got? Wait a minute. No. We have to hype it. What am I doing here? See, we'll never have a mistake-free day. I guarantee. It's never gonna.
That's the one that just goes on forever. I need
That
to, I
does
need
go
to
on for a long time.
edit that one out.
It gave
Fix
me a
that
chance
sucker.
though to read some comments, which Daniel, that's hilarious. Stop
Excellent.
cooking your masks and reflect the sun. There's a difference. Aranet for monitors CO2, which is 417 to 420, is fresh air. Okay, I'm gonna have to read all this, but I'm not gonna do it while we're doing the show. But I thank you for all. I need to look through all this because I think I just plugged it in and was like, save me. But I didn't really do the research. Okay, we got Freebird, not COVID, conspiracy theory, fascist midterms, and are we the baddies?
Spoiler
Let's
alert.
spin the wheel. Yeah, spoiler.
I think we are the baddies.
And the narrator.
Yeah, baby.
Okay, this is kind of a fun one to start on, I think. It's sort of fun and it sort of encapsulates like everything we talk about all the time, which is it's so hard to trust anybody in a position of power or authority or in the media because they're all hypocritical liars at worst or just like blank stenographers at best. And
right. And what the impetus for this category was the Pelosi incident. Because we've all come to not trust the media, and you know we have good rights, good reasons, good logic behind not trusting them. They, you know, in 2016 they had admitted in court about Twitter admitted expressing something like 60% of all the hashtags with the hashtag DNC leak. You know, so and we had endless examples with things that have been covered up. I mean, you know, Snowden, obviously.
right. Well, okay, let's start because we have some of that it'll be fun to talk about. But it is, I think, what set it off was what was trending was Pelosi's gay lover, right? So first of all, this horrific thing happens. Nobody should ever be hit in the head with a hammer ever. Nobody's house should be burgled. Nobody should have to suffer.
Nobody is a bit harsh.
Okay.
Just we disagree. Agree to disagree.
But so then what started trending was Pelosi's gay lover, and this one did kind of crack me up. I hope nobody with two hammers with a manifesto wearing only underwear gets past my fenced-in property, sneaks by my 6 alert dogs, breaks my window, hands me a hammer, and we get into a hammer fight tonight. So basically, and I'm sure this person, I don't even know that account, but as a right winger or whatever, but like highlighting that a lot of kind of crazy things had to come together for this event to happen in a $6 million mansion in a city where everyone's constantly talking about crime. Was there no alarm? Was there no ring system? They don't have any security. Like they are worth like $150 million. So I know she was out of town, but still, right?
Yeah, and you know, having actually protested in front of that house in San Francisco with the Medicare for All march, and I spoke in front of her house, and you know, said "fuck you, Pelosi," among other things. That was the kindest word I probably had.
Yeah.
I don't even remember.
Yeah.
But as soon as we pulled up, there were millions of cops there watching everything we did. You know, obviously being San Francisco, they're trying to preserve our right to free speech.
Sure.
And allowing us to be there, but the security was off the charts, you know.
Yeah.
And just so you know, this area in San Francisco is the weirdest area. You would not expect it to even exist, that there's like a court, a private court in an area in San Francisco on top of the hill. It just doesn't fit the topography if you know the area. It's bizarre to have these like 5 or 6 little mansions all around each other in one little private court. But well, yeah, so, obviously there are a lot of reasons to not suspect this story that they put out was true. So that enabled, because nobody trusts the media anymore, all these cops. Crazy radical things,
right?
Or cops, or anybody.
Yeah, because it was also like the story that was given by cops, like what they found and all that kind of stuff. But I hate that I feel that way. And especially because it is this, you know, horror show of somebody, I mean, a hammer to an 82-year-old man's head is despicable, right? But like, we know that he was just arrested again for drunk driving, Pelosi, and of course he gets off, where, you know, other people rot in jail. So I did start to just question things, and then when you start seeing it, and then of course, like, that made me laugh. And our friend of the show and great reporter, Tina Desiree Berg, kind of pushed back on me when I was like, anybody else questioning this, you know? And so I had to check myself, but it just made us start thinking about the reason that all of these conspiracies flourish is because there is no trust in the veracity of the media anymore.
Yeah, you don't get something like Pizzagate, where
Right.
where from all the so because WikiLeaks was so ignored by the media, you know,
Yeah.
completely ignored, even though everything they released was actual factual data.
Just this is what you were talking about. They
With the
suppressed
DNC
it.
leaks.
Yeah, it was trending at number 1 right before 2016 election. There were 250,000 tweets about DNC leaks, and then it was completely pulled from the list, from the trending list. So,
Right, and
sorry,
the
yeah,
DNC leaks hashtag was used in connection to WikiLeaks,
the
along with the
Podesta
Podesta
emails, right?
emails and all that other
All
stuff.
the conspiracies between, I mean, not conspiracy, they were actually working together, the collaboration between Hillary's campaign and MSNBC, and so
Right.
like almost every reporter that you've ever heard of, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and because the press set out then to minimize everything happening in WikiLeaks, they created this narrative that there were all these sensational gotcha stories, but they never covered the actual stories that were released in WikiLeaks.
Right.
They never dove in and looked at anything themselves. They wanted to convey to the public that it was just sort of like stuff that's slightly embarrassing, like Obama saying that, you know, what did he say about Hillary? I forget that. About Biden, he kind of just fucks everything up.
Oh, yeah.
You
But
know,
that's
they
how we
made it
learned
seem
about the
like
whole Pied Piper. Like, I mean, there was actual news that was worthy of being reported in there.
ignored
Yeah.
in lieu of these other stories. So and it also left people, because there was no actual journalism researching this massive amount of data, the public was finding things themselves. And so
Right.
that created this
Do your own research.
this gap for
Yeah.
things like Pizzagate to come out, where there's
Yeah.
like this satanic, you know, baby killing ritual in a pizza parlor.
Right. But even that, right? Like, you look at the reason that push forward, and I know like Q and QAnon, all that is I mean, probably that was a jumping off point, but you cannot have Bill Clinton and Donald Trump both being friends with a world known pedophile rapist, Jeffrey Epstein, flying on his plane on the Lolita Express to Pedophile Island, or whatever he called it. Was it Pedophile Island? I can't remember what the island was. But anyway, right? And like, and have that. And, you know, at one point during the 2016 campaign, there was an article, and I think it was either Slate or Vox, Vanity Fair, whatever, about the pedophile who's going to bring down the presidency. And it was talking about how both Bill Clinton, even though he wasn't running, but okay, Bill Clinton and Trump were friends with Epstein. And that even got suppressed, you know, quickly. So that is what allows these sort of conspiracy theories then to thrive, is because we know that the media is working at the behest of the powerful people. And then they start shutting down their own stories in order to help elections or hurt people's chances of being elected.
Yeah, and another piece, just before, you know, we'll leave this Pelosi story behind, but
I have so many more conspiracy things I want to talk about, though.
Yeah, which we must. Something about the UFOs and ghosts. I don't even know, but like, but you know, Democrats will never stop capitalizing on an opportunity to show that they're hypocrites.
Right.
Like, you know, this whole thing is like, oh, people are cheering that Pelosi's husband got hit with the hammer, which is evil and vile. You shouldn't do that.
Right.
She's a scumbag. I don't know much about him other than he's a drunk driver. They make
insider
astronomical.
Trading. Yeah.
They're like psychics when it comes to the stock market. You know,
psychics.
Obviously bullshit, but
yeah.
But you know, I'm not cheering for him getting hit in the head with the hammer. But like, how many Democrat blue checks actively cheered on Rand Paul getting beaten up by his neighbor?
The same people who thought it was repugnant for the MAGA people to be cheering on Paul Pelosi's attack were, yeah, I mean, today, so Benigma, which I'm sure a lot of you already follow his account. Here's a collection of Democratic bootlickers celebrating when Rand Paul was physically assaulted by his neighbor and hospitalized with a punctured lung. Okay, so then we have close-up of that. Brooklyn Dad defiant. I think Dr. Anthony Fauci could probably pick up where Rand Paul's neighbor left off and nobody would mind at all. That's what he said in response to the Rand Paul attack. But then when it was Paul Pelosi, the violent, heinous attack on Paul Pelosi, the speaker's husband, needs to be denounced in the strongest possible terms by both sides.
And I like ending it with Christine Pelosi. Yeah. Nancy Pelosi's daughter literally saying Rand Paul's neighbor was right.
I mean, yeah. There were some more people. There's Keith Olbermann. Today, we are all Rand Paul's neighbor. Rachel Vindman, who's the wife of the lieutenant. I think, is he Ukrainian? I don't know. I think he's Ukrainian background. Lieutenant who Trump was horrible to. Dear Rand Paul's neighbor, we see you, bro. We see you. George Takei. Admit it. These days, we all sort of wish we had been Rand Paul's neighbor. So gross. So gross.
And the important part is we're not talking about like some sort of skirmish. Like it was presented like he just got in a little scuffle with his neighbor, but like he had a punctured lung.
A punctured lung.
Could have died.
And I'm not talking about making people uncomfortable. Like, get them all out. I love it when you make people who are despicable feel uncomfortable in public. Brett Kavanaugh should never be able to eat out in public again. Or even fucking Rand Paul. I don't like any of these people, but that sort of like pearl clutching that happens when it happens to one of your own, it should be consistent.
Look, at some point, and I'm in no way endorsing it, should be clear by now, I'm not endorsing what happened. But at some point, there are consequences to running a government entirely for corporations and fucking people over.
Yeah.
And, you just hope that the reaction is based on facts and not bullshit conspiracy theory stuff.
Right.
You hope the guy didn't go in there thinking there was a pedophile, ring in her basement or something. But like people, in a world of all these people suffering under these policies, the fact that somebody takes it to go beyond what you should not be shocking.
Yeah. And, it's interesting to see the reaction to that versus the reaction to somebody saying Medicare for all will never come to pass, and knowing that 70,000 people die every year because these people who are in positions of power, who take money from their big pharma and healthcare, health insurance industry donors, have decided that money is more important than people's lives. So those policy choices are violence against poor people, and they do lead to people's immense suffering and bankruptcy and death. And so, the horror that we feel for one person being attacked, it is horrible, and nobody should do that. But I don't understand the people who are like a one issue voter just for Roe versus Wade or just for gun control and not Medicare for all, right? Because that kills, the lack of universal health care kills more people in this country every year without COVID. With COVID, we know it's responsible for a third of COVID deaths, but on a normal year, it's 70,000 people. That's violence.
Yeah. And if not that any of our viewers are going to commit violence, but if you are going to commit violence, don't commit violence on family and friends.
Yeah.
At least target it to. Anyway, I'm not. Forget.
Wait, I don't even know what you're saying, and I said, yeah, I do not endorse. I do not endorse.
Do not.
I don't know where you're going with that. We're not committing violence. I hear what you're saying.
Just don't get any drive. Don't civilians. Civilians are the people like.
Yeah.
For all you know, her husband is a good guy. He's not, but for all you know,
he's a horrible person for sure. He's a horrible person.
She's the real horrible person here. Not that she should be hammered. anyway.
Yeah.
Let's move on.
I know that, but wait, I just also want to say, there was a big expose this week in The Intercept talking about how that Ministry of Misinformation or Disinformation that we all made fun of
Right.
and knew how horrible it was, and they withdrew it and made it sound like they were disbanding it, has actually continued. And so the government is actually working with this Intercept article right here. Docs show Facebook and Twitter closely collaborating with the Department of Homeland Security, FBI, to police disinformation. Plans to expand censorship on topics like withdrawal from Afghanistan, or origins of COVID, and info that undermines trust in financial institutions. So that's what they're going to start shutting down.
First off, info that undermines financial institutions should be like, that's a public service sharing that information, because nobody should trust financial institutions.
As we know what's happening right now with Jerome Powell, right?
Yeah, they're literally, just today they raised the interest rates another 3.25%, and they're trying to raise unemployment to make this thing punitive on poor people, when at least 60, probably 80% of the inflation is due to corporate greed and not other facts. And you're not going to curb corporate greed by punishing poor people more. It doesn't even work. It's complete nonsense economically.
No, and as Steve Grumbine says, austerity is murder. It will lead to suicides. It will lead to death. It will lead to people not going to doctors. It will lead to people starving, homeless. I mean, it is a horror show. And so the fact that they are trying to squash basically dissent, right?
Yeah. I took us away from this, so I wanted to bring it back up.
Yeah.
The key points of that article. What the second one is kind of the one. DHS plans to target inaccurate information on the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic and the efficacy of COVID-19 vaccines, which that right there, they've changed their story on that 20 times. So, discussion of it is shut down. Racial justice. So what does that mean? What do they,
Yeah.
Like what's the inaccurate information on racial justice? And then U.S. withdrawal from Afghanistan and the nature of U.S. support for Ukraine. So that sounds like just people speaking up and executing their First Amendment rights to protest against things that like war, you're shutting down people talking about Afghanistan.
So, I mean, this is how conspiracy theories get oxygen, is when you don't allow people to voice their opinions. Even if they're wrong, you should have the ability to discuss your point of view and back it up with facts. And that's an opportunity to persuade somebody. That should not be something where you have so little faith in your policies or what your government is doing that you squash dissent. I mean, we talk about the lie is that we're helping democracy thrive in Ukraine, and how Russia, treats its journalists and political dissent, which is all true. I mean, it's disgusting what they do there. But for us to shut down dissent here and make people like domestic violent extremists and to collaborate with these big social tech bros to squash any dissent.
And again, who decides what gets targeted on those lists? Like, who decides, okay, so this fact about the COVID vaccine coming from a lab in China, who decides that is something that's bannable? We are so sure that is accurate, that is not true, that no way it came from a lab leak. So now, but who's deciding that?
Right.
Where's the forum of people?
Fauci, I am science
behind this.
Right. And that's what's really come out, is that Fauci said, I am science. You can't argue with me. He helped fund that. And I mean, here's the other thing that's so fascinating to me is Obama shut that funding down for gain of function research, right? So I don't understand how it became a liberal source of point to argue against that it could have been from a lab leak as opposed to a wet market. Like, I don't understand why they took that cause up. I guess just because at the point where it sort of started coming out, Fauci was then under Biden's administration, and so they just shut it down.
I mean,
but now that's really what's looking like it's much more probable.
I mean, it was portrayed as a right-wing narrative, in large part because there's a right-wing push to make this a racist thing against China. But I think Democrats just seized on that opportunity to say, to polarize people even more. Like, if you leave that, I don't know.
Which is crazy, because I don't know how that's more racist, that it came from an institute, the Wuhan lab, that we were helping fund to the tune of tens of millions of dollars, as opposed to like, ooh, they eat gross things at their Chinese wet market. Like, to me, I mean, if you're really just going to that, that feels way more racist. But basically what it was, again and again, this is why conspiracies flourish, is it was everyone coming together to protect people in power, Fauci, from any kind of scrutiny.
Right. And the minute you say it cannot be a lab leak, you cannot say it's a lab leak. Like, why are you saying that? It brings up the questions of, why is that shut down?
Yeah.
And then that allows it gives fuel to all these crazy conspiracy theories.
And the worst part is, now it looks like that probably is what it was.
That could be the truth.
And so then it just, and then people backtrack, and then nobody trusts anybody anymore. So anyway, conspiracy theories. And I'm looking at our list, and I know we'll move on, but like, even just, Twitter shutting down the story about Hunter Biden's laptop and saying it was Russian disinformation right before the election. And, a large percentage of people say that might have affected their vote. Who knows whether it would have or not, but the election was so close. And anytime corporate media steps in to shut down a story that they knew was true, and they've since come out and said it was true, it was not Russian disinformation. First of all, that's election interference, but it also makes people not trust the media that's supposed to be the fourth estate, that's supposed to be speaking truth to power, that's supposed to be revealing the secrets of the most powerful people in the world.
And I mean, to me, a lot of this goes back to WikiLeaks, goes back to the stuff that we saw released for the public for the first time. Two things were happening. The public was behind Bernie, and Bernie had a shot at winning. And the media was exposed because there was all this stuff that people that were informed, people that were very invested in and interested in the political world, were reading all this stuff, because it exposed so much stuff about the political process that nobody really knew, the insider stuff. So when you had that confluence of those two things meeting at one time, you would turn on the television and see that the media is entirely creating a false narrative. And so you had a lot of people for the first time see, holy shit, this is really bullshit. And then this is all coming off of Obama misleading, being such a crazy disappointment, and then part of WikiLeaks showed that Obama was totally beholden to the banks.
That's right.
The banks picked his entire cabinet.
Citibank picked his,
Yeah. You had a lot of disillusioned people with.
That's when I stopped watching MSNBC, when I saw, Sorry.
But all these people had a completely rational reason to be disenfranchised and disillusioned with both the Democratic Party and the media.
Yeah.
And there really there's nothing that's popped up to say, oh, now you can trust the media, or now you can trust the Democratic Party. Everything's gotten worse.
It's gotten worse. And they talk about the big lie, and Hillary and the people with her spent 4 years saying that Trump was an illegitimate president, right? I mean, everybody's just really playing hard for his or her or their own team.
And who was the first person that started that conspiracy about Obama?
Nobody really wants to hear that, but it was Hillary.
Secret Muslim. That came from Hillary.
Maybe he wasn't a real, her team started the birther rumors that Trump then flew with, but yes. But this I thought was really hilarious, that Anthony Blinken talking about an end impunity for crimes against International Day to End Impunity for Crimes Against Journalists, which is just, again, like, Julian Assange is rotting in jail, and not a single thing that he ever published has been refuted as a lie. Not one.
Nothing.
Anyway.
And yet the media ran with this. Oh, they let the Democratic Party off the hook, including Donna Brazile at the time, even though she kind of flipped back and forth on sides she was with. But they let them all come on TV and say that a lot of these things are falsified, and no consequence at all, and no pushback at all either from the media. Anyway, I hate living in 2016 forever. So,
but you know, I do too, and I do too. Except that if we don't address that, like, you know, I mean, and again, I know we have to move on to the next thing, but like the real January 6th insurrection that made people not trust that we have a democracy, to me, was the stolen election of 2000. You know, we had Jeb Bush, who was the brother of the guy running to be president. We had a Supreme Court that was, you know, basically like chosen and funded by the Federalist Society. So we have Bush and Cheney pushing them, stopping a recount, Gore conceding, which he should not have done. And everybody knew. So it was stolen right in front of us. Right. So once that happened, I mean, that to me was the death of democracy in my eyes. Like, that's when it ended. And that's when I lost faith in elections. And so, yes, I mean, the insurrection on January 6th, horrible. It was awful. Saying, you know, all these secretaries of state who are running, who believe in the big lie, it is frightening. But I don't have a lot of faith in the Democrats. So where does that leave us?
And a lot of if you look at it from the perspective you're putting out, this is kind of the trajectory of letting that go in 2000.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
you embolden the right to lie. You embolden all this nonsense. It worked for them in 2000. It almost worked. I mean, almost worked is tough, but like, politically, it benefited their party, even if it didn't work to get Trump a second term. Like, all these people still believe that Trump worked.
Yep.
One election. Anyway, should we move on?
Yeah, let's move on. Yeah. We need
look at those shots right next to each other.
I know. We got
baby.
There we go. That's good for me because it was just sort of starting to wear off. I was like getting a little too much, and I slowed down, but now I got to get a little bit of the happy juice going.
See, I'm older than you, I think, right? So I think that's part of why they don't wear off for me. Tomorrow they'll wear off about midday.
Cheers. Oh.
Whoa.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
That's the sausage being made again.
I'm always exposing the sausage. I just realized that's not a phrase I should say.
That was a very, call HR in here. What? Yes, let's go. This is where the whole show's going to turn around. It's a happy day.
I hope MSNBC picks us up.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Ugh. That never gets easier for me.
Usually I'm the same, but that one after the first
good.
one,
Yeah, baby.
Our favorite topic that just will not go away. I went to see a movie with my family this weekend, which I kind of didn't really want to do, and now it was good, interesting. It was the Banshees of Inisherin. But we wear a mask, of course, and so I get an allergic reaction because I don't normally have to wear it because I work from home, but I have from my mask wearing it for 2 hours, just awful reaction to it. Anyway, COVID's still here. 11,000 people died last month, and now it's November 2nd. How's our CDC director doing?
I hear she's doing great.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Oh.
She's had whoa. How
Is
did
that not the
go?
first
That's not
one?
even.
I don't know.
That's
I
not
messed. Did we mess up the order?
there.
Was that
Yeah,
the
we
one?
did. That's all right.
We've missed her.
I don't even know
Uh-oh.
where.
I think
where
it's
is
gone. She's relapsed. Where the hell is it?
Wait a minute.
Oh
Discover.
no. All right. Well, I don't know where it is. Pat,
Did we
my
lose
friend,
them? We literally.
we're
I'm
gonna
gonna
have to.
blame StreamYard. I'm gonna have to blame StreamYard.
I know, or our non-existent PA. Yeah. So just as a reminder, Rochelle Walensky, CDC director, got COVID, 2 weeks ago. She, unlike most of the people in this country, got to isolate, stay home. She tests every day. And she is now tested positive again, 2 or 3 weeks later?
Yeah. So she tested positive, went on a whole routine that normal people won't be able to get
Right.
for treatment. Got Paxlovid, and then on day 11 retested. So she was Twitter silent. She still has been Twitter silent.
Yep.
She hasn't said a word. Here's the actual CDC director with COVID, hasn't said a word about things. On day 11, they leaked the story that she tested positive again. And of course, the reason there's two, I mean, there's layers of why this is wrong, but she pushed the whole 5-day back to work thing. Hey,
Right.
get back to work after 5 days. And here we are on day 11. COVID, the Paxlovid stuff. Paxlovid is not working for a lot of people. It's not working for people
Right.
under 50, and it's known to have rebound effects. And a big part of that we're probably starting to find out is that it's because once you get COVID, it's sort of in your immune system. It weakens your immune system for 8 months or so before your T cells and B cells get back to normal.
Also, I think they're thinking that we need a longer course of Paxlovid. It's like, with antibiotics, they say don't stop it before even if you're feeling better, you don't have symptoms, you're supposed to take it to the end. I think they're thinking that now people who are taking Paxlovid should be getting a longer course of the medicine. But I mean, who knows? Because we're not allowed to talk about anything. We don't have any data anymore. But anyway, yeah. Yeah. So, okay.
So there's so many ways we can go with this, but
okay. So this tweet, go ahead. I thought you were reading it. We have to work on our intros and outros. Go ahead. Yeah.
I was about to take on a voice. I'm not going to do that. So y'all think RSV is so bad this year because COVID wiped out people's immune system, or are we not putting that together yet?
Right.
Which is the bottom line. There's RSVs blowing up in school and in pediatric hospitals. RSV,
virus,
flu, and COVID are all basically merging. But what is probably happening is it's twofold. It's a mix of not masking. Everyone's in school, and kids' immunities are weakened because they've had COVID, and they're showing that your immune system is weakened for a long time, even for people who have less than mild asymptomatic people are having weakened immunity from this. So there's that, and that nobody's masking.
Right. Yeah. And, they did this whole push on what was it? Immunity debt. Right. And then, which was because people had been masked and had been isolating. This was what the people like the Great Barrington and the Leanna Wen and the Emily Proctor people who were like, get back to school, Emily Oster, immunity debt, that kids had not been exposed to enough germs. But, there's two different, like, yes, germs are good. You need to build up a tolerance for things like colds, regular dirt. You don't do that for more serious viruses or ailments. You don't do it for like polio or COVID. And so they were acting like that was the issue, that we had this immunity debt. And then it was exposed that that was a completely made up term. Immunity debt, 10 results, nothing published before August 2021. This idea was made up specifically for the COVID pandemic. Thank you, McKinsey.
I was going to say, it's a think tank thing.
Of course it was.
But the ultimate problem is that all the pediatric hospitals are getting full. 3/4 nationwide are full because of how many kids have this combination of flu, RSV, and COVID. COVID, excuse me. And we're not even into flu
The
season
serious
yet.
time.
We're
Yeah.
not into the winter where COVID is going to speak. We have all these variants that are emerging that are not being talked about, that are evading the vaccine. So we're going to be in a mess. And
Yep.
to have 75% of pediatric hospital beds full now.
And also just thinking what this is doing long term to little kids, their organs, their development. I mean, it's horrifying. It truly is. The influence of COVID-19 on the human body is like a combination of SARS and AIDS, as it damages both the lungs and immune system, which is the director of ICU at the, I'm going to say it wrong, but Songan Hospital of Wuhan. And that was in February of 2020. So the let it rip strategy is a crime against humanity.
Yeah. So here, 8 months to rebuild T cells, and T cells, like, that's the big thing with AIDS, is it destroys your T cells. So these are immunity protecting devices your body makes. I have no idea what B cells are. Somebody bring me up to speed. But
yeah.
Imagine if any of this was relayed on MSNBC and CNN to people about how much destruction could be happening to your kids. If they just have a discussion about it, have actual doctors on talking about the potential damage.
Because even when people, when people are polled about wanting masks and protections, they all say, it's across the whole United States, red states and blue states, people say, yes, we would mask, we want protections. And then the whole idea of like, learning loss and pushing that on people. Well, first of all, that's not the worst thing. Like, if you survived the pandemic, like, it's not over yet, but like, learning loss should not be looked at as the most horrible outcome of this COVID pandemic, number one. But number two, there are lots of reasons for that learning loss, and shoving kids back into schools that aren't well funded, aren't well ventilated, where there is a real lack of equity across the board, where we're trying to starve public schools and push all the funding to private and charter schools. If you really want to talk about learning loss, there's a lot to discuss. It's not just throw those kids back in school.
Yeah. And when you talk about the disparities, I mean, this is why, like, wealthy people sort of do see this differently.
Yeah.
But recently, the CDC even found that there are racial disparities in COVID treatments. Yeah. People of color with COVID-19 were much less likely to receive Paxlovid than white patients. And what it turns out is a white person was 44% more likely to get Paxlovid than a black person.
Yeah.
44%.
Yeah.
And so I just want to point out when this idea that, well, what can Biden do? That's what we always hear. What can he do? First off, you could push the goddamn if you have this terrible idea of this boosters and vaccines are your only strategy, you could at least promote those things. And they're not even promoting their own boosters. We have a terrible uptake of the boosters because of their
5%,
strategy.
8%.
It's awful. It's even awful amongst like the immunocompromised elderly people in nursing homes.
Well, if you say the pandemic is over, you're not exactly giving people an urgency to go get boosted, right?
I mean, we know so much about like all the information in the last month has been a just flood of information about COVID, where we're learning all the horrible things that are happening to the human body from COVID. I mean, even if you have a asymptomatic experience with COVID, your risk of a heart attack goes up. It's, as this says, so if someone is predisposed to Parkinson's, having COVID-19 could be like pouring fuel on that fire in the brain. Same probably applies to Alzheimer's and other dementias. So we know all this stuff, but go ahead.
No, well, I mean, just once again, it's like, feeding into the whole conspiracy theory, because we know that when Trump was president, people were speaking out against the let it rip vaccine only. It's just like the flu. And as soon as Biden came in, there was no more death ticker. We stopped testing. We threw people who don't have health insurance off of getting tested and treated for free. I mean, I think, look, Trump is despicable, but like more people would have been fighting against these policies. And instead we're just letting millions of people get sick and die.
And the problem is, if you're on Team Democrat, you saw the news media stand up to the false COVID information.
Right.
So you think, holy crap, if that was happening now, the media would speak up, because you as a normie Dem, you don't have any experience to massively distrust the media.
Right.
You think at least they're going to be honest about COVID, because
on MSNBC,
they saved us from the bleach injecting and, injecting crap from Trump.
Right.
So they would speak up and save us right now, but they're not at all. And I guarantee you, things have gotten so bad in 10 days, because the midterms in 6 days. In 10 days, we're going to hear a different narrative on TV. And if we'd heard that now, it would have saved countless lives. But we have to get past the midterms before the media will report on this stuff, honestly.
Yeah, it's really insidious. All right, should we move on to another happy topic? Or is there something else COVID related we want to go to?
I mean, I just want to point out.
Yeah.
This is a big thing. The Supreme Court has ruled that the TSA can issue mask mandates on planes, trains, and other forms of transit. So when people say, that, if Biden tried to put a mask mandate in place, it would be overruled. The TSA can do it on their own. They can mandate these masks right now. So that's bullshit. Yeah.
I'd like to leave my shoes on and wear masks. That's what I would like.
Yeah, people, keep your shoes on the plane, please.
All right.
Let's have a shot.
What do we got?
Baby.
Yeah. Look at that.
Come
Ask and you shall receive. Lucky, lucky us.
Oh,
cheers,
shot
everybody.
time. Cheers.
Shot time.
Cheers to anyone
Cheers.
watching. Appreciate you. Oh, I forgot. Don't forget to like, shot, and subscribe.
Yes, smash that like button.
Smash that shot.
Is that what people say?
No?
And the notification bell. And don't forget,
Something
we're also on podcast, iTunes. Look at me shilling for the man.
Yeah, what is it? I have yet to listen to us. What are we on?
We're on Apple iTunes.
I have literally never watched an entire show back. I can't do it.
Wow, I'm hurt.
No, it's just the magic only happens once. I have no idea what that means.
Okay, what's our topic?
I think we're gonna land on freedom.
Yeah, baby.
Oh
my God. Okay.
I should not have been so cocky.
I have to like kind of get ready. Thanks, Dave.
Get all these shots
Smash
off
it. Yes, I'm hoping we get to our Are We the Baddies?
We have to hurry up, because I want to get all these topics.
All right, ready? Shot, go.
All right. Here we go.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah. Free bird. What's the first thing that happened? Free bird. Elon Musk. Twitter takeover sparked a surge in the use of the N-word on the social media platform.
Thank
social
God.
Media research.
Finally.
Boy, all those white people just could not wait to say the friggin' N-word. It's unbelievable. Yay, free bird. But then what happens? Not so free.
Should we? I think we should show the video of who Musk is.
We had a whole plan.
We had lots of plans. We should have shown your COVID med opera thing, but anyway, let's.
Next time. Okay.
So, in case people don't know, because a lot of people think Musk is sort of a genius or
Tony Stark,
self-made man, whatever.
Yeah.
Here's a little TikTok video that kind of, TikTok keeps your attention for the kids watching. This is for you.
all the kids watching.
Here's who Musk is.
He's just amazing. He's going to bring humanity to Mars. You're not being serious, are you? This is a bit, right? What? He's a genius and a self-made billionaire. Oh, you might want to sit down for this. He started his first company with money from his dad and his rich friends. Well, he ran it well enough to make it huge. Not really. He sold it for $22 million to a larger company that was just trying to squash all competition, and then he got even more money.
Raising $50 million is a matter of making a series of phone calls.
He's still a genius. You'll never be able to take that away. His online banking startup had a security flaw that was so bad you could transfer funds from anyone else with just an account number. The board fired him because he was ruining the company financially, but he still made $180 million when it sold. He is the reason we can have a green future.
I'd like to be on the cover of Rolling Stone. That'd be cool.
What he really wanted was fame. But he still founded Tesla. Tesla was founded by Martin Eberhard and Mark Tarpenning. Who? Not Elon. He bought in. He became CEO in 2008, then started a media campaign to get loans and investments. Daimler said they would invest if he got a Department of Energy loan, so he lied and said he did. Then he applied for the Department of Energy loan and put Daimler's involvement on that application. He lied to get the loans? Yep, $451 million of government money, and now Tesla makes money in an interesting way. Selling carbon credits. Companies' carbon emissions are capped, and Tesla reduces emissions so they earn a lot of credits, and they sell them to the companies that go over. The few quarters that Tesla was profitable were mostly thanks to this. That just erases the progress. When Elon tweeted, "Funding secured, Tesla going private at $420, that was a lie, and it inflated the stock price of Tesla.
My cash balances are very, very low. I simply had loans against my stock, so if Tesla and SpaceX went bankrupt, I would go bankrupt too.
Now he's being sued for $248 billion for buying Dogecoin, then using his public presence to inflate the price and profit off of it. He says he's going to save the planet and save humanity while he exploits people and the system.
Lovely man. The good billionaire.
That is so George W. Bush. You know, it feels like that to me because
yeah,
came from money. George Bush failed his entire way up, all the way to the presidency. Couldn't find oil. I mean, he's
in Texas.
George Bush couldn't find oil in Texas.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very Trumpian too. It's very like shady business deals all the whole way through. And people think this guy's a genius. He takes credit for Tesla. So what we're seeing now is him on Twitter. First week as CEO, how many dumb fucking things has this guy said
one after another? Yeah.
Off Twitter, and to not trust the success of this company. Holy shit.
He did fire the person who banned Trump. He fired like the 4 top executives or something, and then said it was for cause so he wouldn't have to pay out their multi-million-dollar contracts. I mean, I don't really care about any of that much at all, but he's made enough investors nervous that he's having to kind of backtrack a bit because advertisers are getting worried. To all complainers, please continue complaining, but it will cost $8. He's going to make blue checks pay $8 a month for their blue checks.
You get what you pay for. So this is a business. This is the owner of the company out there his first week on Twitter.
Twitter's current lords and peasants system for who has or doesn't have a blue check mark is bullshit. Power to the people, blue for $8 a month, which is just hilarious. That's like,
we're opening up for everybody, including the homeless, for $8 a month.
$8 a month.
$8 a month. Like,
yeah,
sure.
This one. Yeah. Then he's making fun of people with this meme with $8 for a Starbucks Frappuccino for a 30-minute drink, or $8 for your blue check for a month. I mean, he's just so out of touch with what people want and who they are. But it has been very funny to see the blue check people lose their minds.
So I'll read this one. Elon
Yeah.
Musk is so good at negotiation. He paid $44 billion for something worth $10 billion. And then his first order of business, he proposed a $20-month subscription and immediately revised that down to $8 because Stephen King told him to fuck off. Brilliant stuff. And that happened in real time on Twitter. And
Yeah.
he's one of these guys, he thinks he's a genius because all these people have like told him, oh, you're
yes,
so
man,
smart.
Tim, his whole life. Yeah.
God, you got all this money. He's not a smart guy. He might be like medium smart, but he's not.
But he's playing with the house's money always. Yeah.
Yes. He's just
Remember when he came up with the idea like for a tunnel?
Underground tunnel cars.
Yeah. He's like, instead of a subway, we're going to have an underground tunnel with individual cars.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he's
I can get down there with my car that's poorly maintained and crash in the middle of the I can stall out in the middle of the tunnel. Things will work out okay though.
Yeah.
Somehow.
One thing that was go ahead. Okay. No, go ahead. We can continue with that. Elon Musk's Twitter faces exodus of advertisers and executives. At least 5 Twitter executives have left in recent days as one of the world's largest ad companies said clients should pause spending on the social media platform. So yeah, he's making people nervous. The billionaire who's meeting advertising executives in New York this week has spooked some advertisers because he has said he would loosen Twitter's content rules, which could lead to a surge in misinformation and other toxic content. I mean, that's where I sort of have to push back a little bit. Yeah, of course, I don't think that people should be threatening other people or just like posting the N-word 500 times. But what's more concerning to me is this idea that they have to moderate the content to make sure that mis and disinformation isn't being spread, and who is in charge of that and how does that pan out. And that, I never want the government and tech bros to decide what is true and what isn't.
I think we'd be better off, given 2 choices, over moderated, over regulated speech, or a whole lot of chaotic bullshit. And I think with Musk, we probably are headed more towards chaotic bullshit.
Right.
Just people saying whatever. You have to decide what's accurate and not.
Right.
But I don't think that's that much different than the scenario where the government puts out all this. Like, the nice thing about what's happened this week, and I don't think this is really attributed to Elon, but the one thing Twitter did institute was, what's it called when you can fact check the tweets and people's comments can be posted below it?
Right.
We have an example of it somewhere.
Yeah, we have 2 today, I think, from Biden.
So they fact checked Biden.
Readers added context they thought people might want to know. Right.
And I think this is important. Like, this could
too.
Actually change the spread of misinformation.
So Biden posts, we lost over 180,000 manufacturing jobs under the last guy. We've created 700,000 manufacturing jobs on my watch. This tweet is conflating regaining lost jobs with creation of new jobs that never existed before. And, that's something that if we had a real 4th estate, they would be doing that anyway. Right. And instead they just are stenographers for the Democratic Party. But I do think that's important.
This is basically saying readers added the context the media is not doing.
Right.
And if that was a prominent feature on Twitter, God bless them, because that would actually change things.
Yeah. And there was another one. Oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
This one I liked a lot because it actually caused Biden to delete the tweet.
Crazy.
He's not running anything. The Democratic Party.
No, he has a huge TikTok presence. He's off doing his TikToks.
Can he sniff the kids? He's sniffing TikTok hair as we speak.
Yeah. Seniors are getting the biggest increase in their Social Security checks in 10 years through President Biden's leadership. Readers added some context they thought people might want to know. Seniors will receive a large Social Security benefit increase due to the annual cost of living adjustment, which is based on the inflation rate. President Nixon in 1972 signed into law automatic benefit adjustment tied to the consumer price index.
So inflation.
Yeah.
So basically, because the CPI, which is adjusted because of inflation, went up,
Your Social Security payments go up.
In no way is that Biden's doing.
Right. Yeah.
So anyone connecting the dots reads that tweet and goes, "Oh, I get that." So they delete it. They're like, "Oh shit, they're on to our bullshit. Out of here."
Yeah. So I mean, I can get behind that. That part's good. I don't know if it has anything to do with Elon Musk, but I am happy for truth to be told or revealed or insisted upon. All right, I think we should move on, right? Unless we have something on a video. We don't, do we?
No, let's move on. But I mean, I just want to make it clear, I'm not no billionaire. It's not a good thing when a billionaire owns a platform.
No.
Because by the virtue of becoming a billionaire, you're not a good person. So
Exactly.
nothing good is going to happen.
100.
Yeah, baby.
There we go. All right. How are we starting this?
Let's
Should we
see.
start with the U.S. presence in the world?
I kind of feel like,
Oh.
yeah, okay, yeah, go.
No. How do you want to start it? So the reason we're talking about this was, we should start with Brie, right? And Joe's.
Sure. I mean, there's so many. We're not the good guys, which is the point. But going off of our last discussion, you should be able to you should be able to debate these issues.
Yeah.
And that's what Brie had a pro-Ukraine guy on, had a very reasonable discussion with him. And let's show that clip.
They're stealing Ukrainian children. 500 just yesterday were shipped to Russia. And this is why we should be supporting them. We cannot allow this kind of evil to go unchecked, just on a basic moral reason. I mean, don't you agree with that?
I'm sorry, I don't. And here's why.
Why?
There are gangs that have overtaken Haiti. There is a cholera pandemic that was started by the UN. UN members raped Haitians. A third of Pakistan was underwater. Should we go, due to the climate crisis, should we go and invade China because Uyghurs are in concentration camps? Tell me, articulate. And this is the question that I asked Matt Duss when this war first started. Until you can articulate to me what the rationale is behind where America intervenes and where it doesn't, and give me some kind of moral accounting that makes me believe that it's actually about moral commitments and realizing how much of our money and our resources in the richest country in the world can go to saving lives and increasing the quality of life for the most people, as opposed to a strategic military intervention for territory, resources, and political control. If you can articulate to me why this is truly the most deserving humanitarian case on the planet, as opposed to a continuation of these Cold War policies, we want our economic system, our oppressive, by the way, economic system to maintain global dominance, then I can start to entertain a conversation about what our intervention should be, how long, and how much. But there is nowhere in the entire public sphere that conversation is actually happening, and nowhere close to a rationalization that's been presented.
So that whole conversation was fantastic. And, first of all, Brianna Joy Gray is so smart and she handled it beautifully. She has lots of people on she doesn't agree with, and really thoughtful, deep dive discussions. He could never answer that. Nobody's ever answered that. It's the reason that this whole narrative has been created, that Zelensky's this, Superman, and it's a democracy, and they stopped talking about the, Nazi elements in Ukraine, which I know exist in other countries. We have them in the US. They have them in Russia. Nobody's denying that. But, as soon as you say, is this the conflict that we all need to support? Is this the conflict that the US created with NATO, which anybody studying history knows that this is exactly what the US wanted to have happen. Nobody can answer that. And so when you point those things out, then right away, and I pointed out, I spent all day getting harassed that I'm Putin's puppet, and, oh, you must love Putin and you must love raping children. It's like, it's insanity.
I didn't say you did to that last part, but
yeah,
you do love Putin. Clearly.
Clearly.
But
I mean,
he could not articulate a response to that, which is her logical argument was entirely solid. He couldn't crack it on any level at all. And so the response the next day was,
I've done lots of interviews on the right and left. Never has the host weaponized the interview to attack me and encourage their supporters to post hundreds of insults and smears without correction. Don't make my mistake. Never go on Bad Faith Pod with Bree Joy. I mean, that is so repulsive.
What the fuck?
Yeah.
How?
And then I saw people were like pushing. Well, first of all, she didn't weaponize anything. She posted clips, unedited clips, or maybe some edit, but like I watched the whole hour-long show and the clips that she
Nothing
posted.
was out of context.
No, yeah. So he was embarrassed when he was rightly called out on his inability to articulate why this is where we should be putting all of our money and why we should not be. And again, it was mostly about that letter, that toothless letter from a week ago from the CPC that was then withdrawn because they obviously got pressure from the administration. I don't know, people in power.
Because it's not about good versus bad. And that's how he's framing this whole thing. Well, that Ukraine is good, Russia is bad. But if you look at our economic commitments to them, okay, so then if it's good versus bad, we should be in all these other places first, because this is not like articulate a response to why we're not in these other places. Is what she was
why
saying.
are we funding Saudi and their war in Yemen? And like, why are we, I mean, and then he was like, sure, we should invade Haiti. And she was like, no, we don't. I don't want to, some of my point, I don't want to invade Haiti, but like this is not a humanitarian venture for the US and NATO. And so, but you're not even allowed to say that, because then all of a sudden they talk about all of the war crimes. But then when you show that during war, there are war crimes, that there are plenty of war crimes on the Ukrainian side as well, then again, oh, you're a Putin apologist. And what I think she was articulating, which I think most of us on the left feel, is this is all horrific. We want it to end. And there were moments when there were negotiations that could have taken place that would have led towards diplomacy and peace. And those were shut down by the US and the UK. So that's the request, is let's open those pathways back up.
And despite all the propaganda out to regular folks in the world here in the US, the public still supports negotiations because they're not stupid as far as wanting to end in a nuclear war with fucking Russia. I mean, we're
yeah.
And the public,
the majority of voters support the U.S. pursuing diplomatic negotiations to end the war, even if Ukraine must make some compromises with Russia.
And we are the ones shutting down the negotiations with Russia. The U.S. is the one. The U.S. are the ones shutting down negotiations.
Right. And everybody knows that. So then that next argument that a lot of liberals or normie Dems will say is, well, Ukraine should be allowed to negotiate what they want. But what that is ignoring is the fact that they're basically a client state of the US at this point. And they tried to, Zelensky, even before, at the lead up to the war, asked Biden to stop his bellicose rhetoric and said, let's leave room for negotiations. So that was in February. And then again in May, he wanted to negotiate and Russia was willing to come to the table, So now, and, here's the other thing is now Russia seems to be, I mean, I'm not a war strategist. I don't really understand every move that's being made. But even for the people who say, well, listen, Russia's retreating now, Ukraine's doing so much better. Great. Then this is the time to negotiate from a place of more power. Like, how many more people need to die? And it has, economic and disastrous humanitarian repercussions throughout the world. So it isn't really even just up to Ukraine and Russia and the US. Like there are millions of people who are being affected by this.
And the end of this war isn't going to come as some win for the left or win for the right or win for the US or it's going to be a shitty deal, because Russia they have enough firepower there to just flatten all of Ukraine if they want.
Right.
So whatever comes out of this is not going to be a win for anyone living in Ukraine. This is the bottom line.
Yeah.
So negotiate early, negotiate now.
Yeah.
But anyway, the point is we are not the good people in this situation at all. There are several scenarios like this. Cuban, the
Yeah.
sanctions in Cuba. I mean, Biden could have lifted those from day one.
Well, he's continuing Trump's policy.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know why he doesn't want to stick to his former boss, Barack Obama, who was, working towards normalizing relations with Cuba, but
when you bring up
Trump
Obama,
guy. Yeah.
What did he say about Guantanamo? He's going to end
Closing
Guantanamo
that right after we codified.
Right so we just now released a 75-year-old who's been in there 17 years.
17 years.
Can you imagine 17 years never charged with a crime in the US? I mean, not in the US, which is why it's fine technically. He's not in the US. It's a legal thing, but that's the US, and the world sees this. I mean, the US doesn't see this, but the world sees this.
Yeah.
We're not the good guys.
We are not. And so that's why how the rest of the world sees which country is the greatest threat to world peace. And that's how they voted in this big Gallup poll.
Look, Mexico thinks it's us. All of South America thinks it's us. Most of Europe thinks it's us. Australia thinks it's us. It's been a while since I played Risk, so I don't know.
Is that Afghanistan? I think Afghanistan might be in there. I think that was from a couple of years ago. But I mean, the reason is where the U.S. has bombed since World War II, and there are dozens of countries and decades of us just decimating other societies. So to act like we're doing this out of any sort of humanitarian effort, and again, and I know that a lot of MMT folks don't like it when you say like, well, why are we spending all this money for war? That means that we won't have money for healthcare or water systems in our own country. And I know that that's a false binary, right? We have money for all of it.
We have money for all of it. Right. Yes. Please explain.
But the point is, where is your priority? And the fact that every time it's for war or the military, we sign those checks right away. Those checks go out. It happens in a second. When you talk about healthcare for everybody, when you talk about Flint, Michigan, Jackson, Mississippi, most of the water supply in our country, the air, our food, like we are poisoning our own people. We are not taking care of our people. We have homeless, 500,000 people sleep on the streets. The priorities of our nation are despicable. And yes, we have money for all of it, but that dichotomy is to show where our priorities always lie.
Yeah, and it's important until people are convinced that MMT is a real economic theory that's valid, you have to still converse with people on terms they understand. So that's where I've always taken issue with MMT folks. I love MMT. I believe MMT is real, but you need to convince people. You can't come down on people for speaking on the terms people understand, because you're never going to convince them. Okay, you just have to believe the MMT, and then you can believe that we have the money to do this thing.
Right.
Like, that's too big of a leap. Let's talk about how we should be doing stuff here and there, and
right. I don't know. Yeah, and just that it's indicative of the priorities.
I could be wrong on that too. You know, there's something about pushing the needle left on believing MMT. You know, I get it, but
I mean, I'm up for all of it. I don't want to
balance.
I think more than anything, it shows like nobody ever says, how are we going to pay for it when it's sending billions of dollars to Ukraine? Nobody's asking how we're going to pay for it. And again, they still do not have clean water in Flint, Michigan. And I mean, that problem, even though it's been highlighted so much, but it is pervasive across our whole country. People don't have healthy drinking water or healthcare in the middle of a global pandemic that's killed over 1 million people.
And damn near half our bridges are going to collapse. Like, there's going to be a major tragedy in the next year major on a bridge or something here in the US. And it's just whatever.
Infrastructure.
Is
Yeah.
it-
I mean,
cheery talk.
cheers.
Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. Let's go. What's our last
We
thing?
get
Do
to
you
our
have
last
anything
one. We got
fun?
one more. We got one.
Yeah.
more.
Let's do it. Let's speed through it.
Yeah, baby.
Oh, that's not going to be very positive, I don't think.
It landed on shot, Lila. That's shot. We're out. Peace out.
Peace out. Did it really land on shot? Or are we going to talk
No,
about the midterms,
that's
or
just
should we
it.
talk about it next week? Are we talking about it?
No, we're talking about. Should we get into
We're
it?
going to whiz through them. Let's whiz through
Let's
it so we know what
do
to
it
take. Because the
quickly.
midterms, by the time we see you all next week, we're going to know if we have those 2 extra Democratic senators so we can do all those things that we were supposed to have done in the last 2 years.
Right now we're at a point where I hate to say it, and this is, we should have had more time for this because we were going to disagree on this a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
I actually think we're kind of fucked in a way because I kind of think we're going to end up after the midterms with the same situation we're in now. I think abortion worked enough to get us back to where we are, but
really, I think we should make a bet. I think we should make a bet that we have to honor next week on the show. So you think that Dems are going to come out with the House and the Senate?
yeah, I think it's going to be the same situation. I think honestly,
No, I like this. I like it. Let's see it. But then we have to
I
come
don't-
up with a good.
and I don't even want to say
bet.
what I want to happen because I don't know. Like, what I want to, I don't want Republicans to win. I think we're almost better. I'm not saying to go out and vote for Democrats, but I think in a way it's better to see Democrats get their 2 seats, but I don't think they're going to get their 2 seats. I think it's going to be like the same situation.
Right. And then
Where
we
they
just
can,
yeah.
It's going to be so.
They'll blame it on like Schrader and
It's so
what's his name, Murphy or somebody. Yeah.
I think it's so managed that whatever happens, it's 2 seats still in the Senate.
Yeah.
And if they have 2 seats in the Senate, it doesn't matter if they don't lose the House. Nothing changes. Like, this is the best scenario for them. If they keep it where it is now, then in 2024 they can run on. We still
just
need 2
2 more.
seats. 2 seats.
All right. Well, let's just see. As you know, we have they're finally starting to talk a little bit about the economy, but they're talking about how great it is and how much they've accomplished, as opposed to saying, if we get those 2 seats, this is what we'll do. And part of the problem is, I mean, they talk about codifying Roe. But as you said, it's very unlikely that they're going to have they're not going to have a super majority, right? So like, what are they going to be able to do with it? But they're not talking about what are they going to do about the economy? Why aren't there price controls? Why do we still have Jerome Powell, who is a Trump appointee, there talking about how, and by the way, they are lobbied by firms. They are going to force people, as we were already talking about, into joblessness, homelessness, and mass desperation and sadness in order to lower the demand for goods. So in this very long way to have it affect prices, as opposed to putting price caps or calling out the greed and disgustingness of corporations and CEOs. Instead of doing that, which could have a real effect and threatening these people, they are going to go the long way around that is dependent on human suffering.
Well, the good news is that you and we're all doing, families are doing better. I could explain it, but let's hear from Biden.
And the American people are seeing the benefits of this economy that works for them. Families have more net worth today than they did before the pandemic.
Let's see a graphic for that.
Here you go.
Yeah.
So there's the pandemic. Family savings.
33.8% of savings during the COVID pandemic. And now where are we?
3 point. I think that it slipped a little bit. Savings slipped a little bit. And that red line, I don't know if you can read this, but that's credit card debt. So credit card debt in the pandemic went through the roof, and it's still exponentially high. There's no dip in that. But at least housing costs went through the roof.
Oh my
Rent
God.
is through the roof. Nobody can afford to live anywhere. So here he is out there before the midterms saying things are great.
While people are suffering. So there's no being in touch with your base, with your society, with your voters. It's really just such a bubble of the, privileged class who feels like, yeah, things are better because we don't get mean tweets anymore. And they even brought out, bringing out Obama. He came out of his money cave one more time to talk about Social Security.
Some of your parents are on Social Security. Some of your grandparents are on Social Security. You know why they have Social Security? Because they worked for it. They worked hard jobs for it. They have chapped hands for it. They had long hours and sore backs and bad knees to get that Social Security. And if Ron Johnson does not understand that, if he understands giving tax breaks for private planes more than he understands making sure that seniors who've worked all their lives are able to retire with dignity and respect, he's not the person who's thinking about you and knows you and sees you, and he should not be your senator from Wisconsin.
That shit works on people that don't know anything about Obama's history or Biden's history.
Yep.
Yeah. Obama wanted that Social Security, then Bernie Sanders happened.
There's Joe Biden's record of working to cut Social Security, 40 years. But hey, even because I know I bring this up to my liberal friends, my normie Dem friends, and they're like, but he's changed.
That's old Biden.
That's the old Biden, because just 3 months ago, he tapped the anti-Social Security ideologue Andrew Biggs to oversee Social Security, going against Social Security, the Social Security Board, who urged the Senate not to appoint him. So that's how much he's changed. And I think, listen, when Obama speaks, I know he's immensely popular still with a lot of people. He has such a talent. He is such a political genius, and he is such an enormous disappointment. And when you know the truth of it, or when you felt the truth of it, as millions of people did during his 8 years, you understand what led to Trump. And if you think that Trump is just some aberration, and when you get rid of him, you're not going to get a DeSantis or a Ron Johnson or a Marjorie Taylor Greene or whatever the hell, or a George W. Bush. Like, this did not come out of nowhere. This is the culmination of 40 years of neoliberal policies. And when you have somebody who people really believed in, like Barack Obama, whom I loved and I voted for, who is such a disappointment and ends up doing exactly what every other neoliberal, and by the way, Reagan and, Republicans did, that is what forces people to lose faith in democracy.
Obama is responsible for more people on the left being disillusioned than literally anyone else ever.
I think
and
so.
it created a divide on the left of people that follow politics closely-ish and people that just like the rhetoric.
Yeah.
And that's where
I mean, he makes them feel better. And I mean, the problem is that people who actually, I used to not understand the swing voters. Like, I didn't understand, how can you really look at like disgusting Republicans and, the wonderful Democrats?
They're
and
worse.
Really not
They're worse. And that's the surfacely worse.
Yeah. But I think the problem is people are desperate and they just don't know where to turn. Yeah. I don't know.
I think it's because on the surface, it's obvious that the Republican Party is worse, but like you have to do layers of understanding to understand like what is the consequence of always supporting the other side when they're awful
Yeah.
and not allowing any other, any other third party or dissenting view or criticism when you're squashing criticism of your guys because you think it'll hurt them electorally, but it's
Right.
true. But it's true. You're stopping your party from changing. You're stopping.
Yes, that's right. And when you're stopping, I'm starting to feel really excited about Matthew Ho, and I don't know how things are going to go for him this coming week, but I feel like he could have a really long and exciting career, because we need, and Democrats should welcome third party people coming in, and then you build collaborations and alliances, and they help push you to be better. And I think feeling threatened by that and not trusting a true democracy it's a real shame, and I think it's hurting everybody in this country. So yeah,
Democracy is at stake. We all know that.
yeah, democracy is on the ballot. So make sure you go out and vote.
Oh, this is great. I love this.
Cool.
So we should end on this. Let's end
on this on a positive, on a happy note.
So I wrote notes for this because I just
okay, good. Yeah, tell
give
everybody.
credit to the 14-year-old. So
Yeah.
Ulster County in New York put out a contest for their I voted sticker graphic, and this 14-year-old won. Hudson Rowan, you're a hero. God damn you. You rock. Come on the show.
Cool.
I hope you're a part of it. Like that's how we all feel right there. I don't know what that is. He might not even agree with me politically, but
right.
I agree with your sticker.
But I feel that to my soul. I feel that sticker.
And that was like sometime earlier this year, maybe even last year. But today, or maybe yesterday, I don't even know.
Yeah.
They made the stickers. It's happening. Everyone who votes gets one of those stickers. God damn it. I love this kid.
That's pretty awesome. I love it.
That's awesome.
I love it. Well, listen, go out there, vote for the best person you can. And we'll have a lot to talk about next week. I already voted. I
didn't vote. I vote in person. I drop off my ballot in person. That's how I rock.
Well, I got the email saying that my vote was received and counted already. So we'll see if I get what I want. Thank you all for joining us this week. I'm glad we ended on a semi-happy note because that was I feel like I brought down the whole mood. You guys are awesome. It's really fun. It really truly is one of the highlights of my life. So thank you. Cheers, everybody. Keep punching up.